Morning everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join today's SPTO webinar. A special hi to those of you who I know, kia ora from Kiwi land. Thank you Tama and to you and your team for inviting me to present today and for making this event possible. For those that don't know me, my name is Rick Felderhof, and I've been around for a while. I did a brief bio on the invite, so I won't go into any more detail, other than to say I did get the dates slightly wrong. And in fact, I started with Air New Zealand in 1980 as a management cadet. So I'm actually in my 40th year of being involved in the New Zealand travel and tourism industry, and most of that time have been specialising in the holiday package market from New Zealand, well actually from other parts of the world, but mostly from New Zealand to the Pacific Islands. I wanted to talk today about the customer because in my view, understanding the customer in the new COVID world will be vital to our success, and it's also something that we can influence. Again, in the invite, I made the comment that in times of crisis and change, we need to focus on the things that we can influence. We should keep aware of all the other stuff that you can't influence, but don't waste too much valuable time and resource and effort on where you can't influence outcomes. I also added the word Kiwi into the topic simply because my area of expertise is primarily the Kiwi source market. And all source markets have their own nuances and have their own set of circumstances with how their countries and industries have and continue to manage the COVID-19 crisis and the impact that that has on the customer. When Tama approached me to do this presentation, I started collating stats and numbers, but as I got into it, I had a bit of a change of heart. Because you can get all of those details online in your own time. And I'm sure Tama and the SPTO has great stats on source markets available should you need them. My feedback today is more anecdotal based on my experience on being in the travel industry front line through the COVID-19 pandemic over the last 8 months or so, and its impact and effects on our customers. What happened? What impact did it have, and what barriers are there likely to be in the new COVID-19 world? I want to go back a little bit first and just remind or share with you what happened in March 2020, when we all know the proverbial really hit the fan. We just weren't prepared for 2 days' notice for our borders to be closed. We didn't understand it, our customers didn't understand it, and to be honest, I don't think anyone really knew what to expect and what was about to unfold. I remember on the Monday, actually the 23rd of March, it was about 10 o'clock, we were getting our team together, and that's our whole office together at our offices, to start preparing and implementing a plan for COVID. And by 1 o'clock that same afternoon, it became really clear that this was going to be our last day together in the office before going into lockdown. So that afternoon, it was a case of grabbing all your stuff, your laptops, your phone, and getting home and setting up to operate our business remotely. And, you know, it was pretty tough, and we got there, quite a bit of stress. We managed, though, to be fully operational by 8:30 the next morning. So at this stage, we had to think about our customers. We had customers already overseas, some even unaware of the lockdown. We had customers who were supposed to be departing that day or within the next few days. And then we had thousands of customer bookings stretching well into the future. Each booking needed to be identified, reviewed, and individual suppliers contacted: airlines, hotels and resorts, ground operators, activity and ancillary providers. We had to establish with every supplier their position on cancellation and deferment, which then had to be conveyed to the customer. It's been a pretty tough 8 months for all of us, and we're now getting to the end of our booking management and our processes. And take my word, and a lot of you will know, there's much more work undoing a booking than there is putting a booking together. So as the title said, let's get on to talking about the customer, and let's focus on their experience. Let's put aside the impact of COVID-19 on people's lives, their incomes and jobs, their health and mental well-being, and the big unknown of a pandemic. On top of this, we then had to tell our customers that they weren't going to be able to travel. Some of them, you know, with their trip of a lifetime and bookings made up to 2 years prior. And then on top of that, we had to tell them that what was happening with their money. And this is really where it got really tough for my team, and I know a lot of frontliners everywhere took a real hit here. We had to go and advise our customers that most of them weren't getting their money back. And I can, you know, put yourself in their foot, I mean, in their shoes. Imagine how this made them feel. Something they had worked really hard for, paid good money for, was cancelled from underneath them through no fault of their own, and they wouldn't be getting a refund, and their travel insurance would not cover this because of their pandemic exclusions. And I'll tell you now, this is not the place where our customers or any of us wanted to be, but our customers will do whatever it takes going forward to avoid getting into the same position again. Which is why I think we need to talk about the customer and what are their new expectations from lessons they've learned, either their first-hand experiences or feedback from friends and family, often not 100% accurate, but still feedback. And then the media, and you know, their reporting has largely been in New Zealand inaccurate and often misleading. So the list goes on. And I think that's why we really need to take a good look at the shape and the form of the customer offer in the new COVID world. And we need to work on reducing, wherever possible, the barriers to purchasing holidays again. And I want to break it down into a few different topics. And the first one is the political situation, and airports and borders, airlines, hotels and resorts, activity and ancillary providers will have to adhere to the regulations agreed and implemented at a political level. This is a case of trying to ensure decision makers have all the facts to make an informed decision, but at the end of the day, we as an industry will have to, at minimum, meet and adhere to whatever systems, processes, guidelines, etc. that are required. The next topic I've got is messaging, and I think one of the successful things that stood out to me with the New Zealand response to COVID-19 was the messaging. In today's world, we have a very limited window to get our message through before our customers move on to the next thing. The message needs to be clear and concise. It needs to be simple and easily understood, and it needs to be displayed consistently through all your information channels. And it needs to apply at all levels so that everyone is on the same page. And I think this is really relevant, or particularly relevant to national tourist officers, to ensure that they take on the feedback from their industry and design a consistent message that all stakeholders can use with their messaging to their distribution and they to their customers. Health and safety. I think our customers, well, I know our customers are very concerned about their health and safety in a COVID-19 world. Government, tourist officers, tourism suppliers, wholesalers, retailers, we're all going to need to publish new and acceptable health and safety plans that can be provided to the customer, and everyone must commit to its delivery through the whole process of travel. That's before the customer travels, while the customer's there, and even when the customer returns home. Client funds, and this is one that's, you know, it's going to be a real issue. You know, customers are very concerned about where their money is being held. And our experience over the COVID-19 pandemic was that a number of suppliers around the world have withheld our clients' money, offering no refunds, or in some cases have approved refunds but are taking unacceptable timeframes to process and pay those refunds. Going forward, customers are going to be very wary of what is happening with their money. Where are their funds, and how are their funds going to be protected, and especially protected locally in their source country? And how do they get them back in a timely manner if they can't travel due to COVID-19? In New Zealand, TANS members, that's the Travel Agents Association of New Zealand, operate with a client fund account, or members must operate with a client fund account, which is backed up by a consumer bond. So our clients' funds are protected. To continue offering this surety to our customers, though, we will need to work with our suppliers to ensure all payments are based on a bill-back basis, which thankfully most of our suppliers already provide. And as we currently do, all supplier payments will be made without delay and within normal credit periods. However, for those suppliers who still require or insist on prepayment, we're going to need to put another step in the process and warn our clients that their money will be going offshore prior to their travel, and we will need to contractually seek our clients' approval to move the liability from ourselves to the supplier, so that if things go wrong, we're not going to be stuck in the middle. So, you know, my strong recommendation there is accept that we need to look at credit facilities, provided those operators, you know, meet the rules and pay their bills promptly, and we've got no problem with that. The other area that customers are going to be really wary about is restrictive amendment and cancellation policies. And therefore, it's my recommendation that suppliers waiver cancellation or amendment fee policies if the stay or service is cancelled due to COVID-19 at any time prior to the booking, to the booked stay or the booked service. And in the interest of effective messaging, if this or a similar policy can be coordinated at a country level, then what a powerful message this would be for us to present to our customers. I'm not talking about changing your normal and existing amendment cancellation policies, because they can still apply for other circumstances, because travel insurance still covers these. But currently, travel insurance does not cover COVID-19 related events. Another point is, I've put my heading is book with confidence. By and large in New Zealand, our customers have been pretty well looked after by wholesalers and TANS travel agents. However, that hasn't been the case with everyone. Some suppliers have let their customers down, and a number of self-help resellers simply didn't have the resources, systems, and business models available to deal with all the disrupted bookings. Customers who experienced this customer service failure, they'll probably have talked to their friends and family, and in some cases the media, about their experiences, and they are changing how they will book travel in the future. Customers want surety, and we, the wholesalers in New Zealand, TANS travel agents, generally delivered this when times were tough and when things were out of control. And we are noticing a massive swing back to the traditional wholesaler travel agent distribution model. We've been able to say to our customers, you know what, leave it with me. We'll come back to you with all the info needed, along with the best deals and booking conditions. And as you can imagine, if we can also go back to the customer and say, book and pay your holiday with confidence, and if due to COVID-19 you are not able to travel, we will refund your money in full within 7 days. Imagine how powerful that message would be. So, key points for me are The political arrangements and health and safety requirements will be whatever they are, and we will have to, at minimum, adapt our businesses to meet those requirements. The messaging needs to be clear, concise, and consistent, and preferably at a national level. Customer health and safety needs to be paramount before, during, and after our customers travel. Client funds need to be protected, preferably locally, and available for full refund due to cancellations caused by COVID-19. Cancellation and amendment policies due to COVID-19 only need to be relaxed and be fully flexible. And we believe customers will want to book their holiday with confidence via their local travel agent. So should we get these key points right, and should the political arrangements and requirements not put too many barriers in the way, and should airports and airlines rise to the challenge with sufficient capacity, then I believe that Kiwi demand for holiday travel to the Pacific Islands will be strong. Surprisingly, our economy is performing well. Our unemployment is low at just over 5%, and Kiwis want to travel overseas again, especially short haul to the Pacific Islands. Key target markets are couples, young and middle-aged, and families, including extended families, with their travel often funded by their grandparents. The only market that seems to have doubts about international travel at this stage is the older market, who in general are choosing to travel domestically due to higher COVID-19 risks for their age group. There's a couple of new target markets coming though for the Pacific. So a target market that will be new to the PI are those Kiwis that have tended to focus more on long haul travel, saying they will check out their own backyard later. We saw this happen here in New Zealand with high demand this year, given their only holiday option was to holiday domestically. So should, or probably better, when the Pacific Islands do open up to non-quarantine travel, then Kiwis who have usually holidayed in Europe or the Americas or Asia will now be heading your way. These people may want to focus more on experience rather than just your traditional Kiwi rest and relaxation holiday. So provided they are allowed to get out and about in the local community, then there is an opportunity for experience-based suppliers to target these customers. Similar to this target market are the Kiwi expats coming home from UK, Europe, the Americas and Asia. I saw some estimates over the last few days that put this number at up to 500,000 Kiwis are looking to come home over the next few years. Most of them are highly successful, most of them are cashed up, and a lot of them haven't either been to the Pacific Islands or it was a long time ago they went to the Pacific Islands. So, you know, they are a little bit similar to that other new target market, the new Pacific Island traveller from New Zealand. So my recommendation is to get ready because the Kiwis are coming. I wanted to also look at the time frames a little bit, and my best guess, and I've been proven wrong many times this year, but you know, obviously there's a few things that need to come together, but we're really looking for tourist travel to start from late March 2021 onwards. Because even if non-quarantine travel starts prior to this, the VFR market will move first and take up the majority of the air capacity. So, and then we're into New Zealand summer, and it's the wet seasons in the islands from December through March. So realistically, it's from late March, April onwards, where we will see demand convert into bums and beds. As we get ready for the relaunch, one point I'd also like to make is don't sell yourself short with big price discounts. Contrary to our reputation, Kiwis are not always looking for the cheapest holiday experiences. Yes, they want great value, but it's not a time you want to cheapen your product offering or your brand. this will be a time to get some runs on the board and catch up financially. Yes, offer some value adds such as meals or activities or both, but please don't get bullied into providing the cheapest price online. Rather, work with your wholesalers to design offers that deliver the customer good value and provides acceptable income and returns to you, the supplier, and we, the distributors. I'd also like to just add, if you are value adding with meals, and for some of, who knows, but it may be that it's a requirement to keep tourists separate from the local community. So meals may have to be taken in-house. And there's some opportunities there for you, and your hoteliers will know this better than I, but there's things, when you do have customers in-house dining, you can plan your stock and your staffing resources much better and more efficiently. So one thing though, if you are value adding with meals, or you're required to provide your meals in-house, please just ensure you focus on the quality, and also, you don't need an extensive range, but just make sure there's a reasonable range of menu options. So, so that's really some of the things I think that we need to focus on for the customer. Listen, I've got some other core principles that our customers are looking for from their Pacific Island holiday, and there's no harm in repeating those. Successful suppliers always provide and deliver good customer services, good customer facilities, great customer experiences, and we need our customers enjoying their holidays. And we all need to be customer focused. Again, we want our customers to enjoy their holidays, and if they do, they'll come home and become our and your ambassadors. I think it's a given that suppliers need to provide clean, safe, well-managed and well-maintained services and facilities, and that's just a given for the Kiwi customer. I think suppliers need to be honest also about what they offer and what they offer the customer, and customer expectations must at a minimum be met and hopefully exceeded. You need to have to operate your product or service in a professional manner at all times, and provide access to experienced owners or senior staff to resolve any issues that may crop up at any time. I've got a few other things, but they relate mainly to the wholesaler supplier relationship. I'll just touch on pricing integrity. Meaning as a distribution, we're really looking to our suppliers to work with pricing integrity, so that suppliers should always include a distribution margin with special offers or any discounting that you're doing. As I mentioned previously, there's a strong swing back to the surety that a travel agent and a local travel agent and a wholesaler can provide. And I think this trend will grow as the travel bubbles start emerging. And also remember that, the wholesaler margins, most of that is passed on to the travel agents. So, dealing with wholesalers is generally a reasonably cost-effective nationwide distribution model, and especially when things go wrong, because as we've proven through COVID-19, we all jumped in and provided solutions for our customers, and most of them have had acceptable outcomes. Listen, I think that with COVID, there's a number of unknowns, and it's really just a case of working with our suppliers and wholesalers to adapt and change and react to whatever gets thrown at us, because we're sort of going along this road and we're getting things chucked at us, and we don't have all the solutions. But I think as suppliers and wholesalers, if we can work together to make sure that the customer gets a good outcome, and you know, that's really the key to this, and it's about making sure that the customer is happy with the outcome at best possible. It's not always going to be the case, but it often does require compromise by the supplier, by the distributors, and by the customer. So I think that really brings to an end my presentation, Tama, if you're there, or have you gone west?
Yeah. There's a comment here from Marina. For small boutique places, it's a big challenge to give 100% refund for cancellations, but they offer full flexibility for later stay. So how's that for a compromise rather than a full refund from the customer?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the customers who are going to decide. You know, we can, as a distribution, we can only put the supplier's terms and conditions in front of the customer, and ultimately they will decide whether they want to take the risk. I think what we've done probably poorly in the past is we've had arrangements with suppliers and we haven't really educated the customer on all of the finer detail of those terms and conditions. So if we have got some conditions that are potentially going to put us at risk down the track, if COVID was to re-emerge and stop travel, well, we're going to put those terms and conditions in front of the customer, and they are going to make the decision about whether they want their funds shipped off onshore or no, sorry, we'll just go somewhere else where they're a bit more flexible. So, you know, I don't want to be here dictating what the customer's going to say. At the end of the day, actually, my father-in-law, a long time, you know, told me the golden rule: he who has the gold makes the rules. And that's a classic case here with the customer. They're the ones who've got the gold, and they will decide where they put it. And we as wholesalers are going to make sure that they know the rules, the terms and conditions, and the liability. And like everyone, we're going to try and make sure that we limit our liability, because we got, in this first COVID situation, we got slammed. We were in the middle. You know, customers thought we were withholding money when we had paid it to airlines or paid it to resorts. It took quite a big job for us to educate them to say, no, sorry, we've actually sent that money offshore and we have to try and get it back now. So, you know, we will be making sure that they're aware of that going forward. I hope that answers your question. So, you know, you make your rules, but just remember it's the customers who are going to decide. So Jill at Madam Manoa has got within 14 days, there's full amount. So listen, as long as the customer's aware of that, then you know, that's what will be presented to them. So you know, they can make their choice.
Rick, in October, Australia opened their borders to New Zealand. Do you see many New Zealanders opting to travel to Australia?
Listen, there was some. What we have is that we have this, and it's really the VFR market. So we've got people stuck in Australia, we've got people stuck in New Zealand, we've got people stuck in Fiji. So there's going to be, when the flights do come back, there's going to be this initial rush of VFR traffic, you know, to go, and there's been tragedies in families that, you know, people haven't been able to connect personally. You know, things happen. So the initial demand will be rebalancing that VFR market. There was, to Australia, there was also some corporate traffic that went back to Australia. But in terms of the leisure market, very little. Until there is quarantine-free travel in both ends, the leisure market is pretty stuffed. But I saw there that someone had a cruise. Where's it going? Full for March. Yes, so we have a full Lau and Kandavo cruise, that's Jackie, in March with Kiwi. So excellent. And I'm quietly confident that we will have quarantine-free travel for March next year. So fingers crossed.
Okay, there's a question here from admin. If we have a book now, pay later policy, will the wholesalers respect this or expect guests to pay the travel agent right away?
Listen, I think it's about the customer. The customer is not going to pay now and travel later. I'm sorry. I mean, if you've got hard-earned cash, are you going to give it to somebody first? Is it locally in New Zealand and is the money protected? Or are you going to send that money offshore and have no legal jurisdiction or no consumer laws covering it? My view is that very few customers, and I'm happy to be proved wrong, but very few customers are going to front up money.
Sorry, Rick, it's book now, pay later. And the model sees us not to get paid by the wholesaler until after the guest has stayed. So
what was that? It was pay now,
book
travel
now,
later.
pay later. Book now, pay later.
Book now, pay later. Oh yeah, listen, there's yeah, potentially there is a market for that, and I think people have, but there are companies that are offering that facility. It's a different end of the market though, you know, and I think you got to think about what target customer you want. You know, if it's the bottom end, well, you know, they may well look at that option. If it's the youth, they may be more comfortable with that. But if it's, you know, your core middle to upper, you know, they've got the cash. And remember that, you know, the New Zealand economy is actually doing very well, other than travel.
There you go. Yes. Hi.
Hi, Mario.
Nice to meet you all. I'm in Chicago, USA. We've been with a wholesaler for over 43 years. And as us, we specialize in South Pacific, Southeast Asia, and Italy. This has been obviously a nightmare for us. We have gone to a zero sales since March. We've had cases. I've been listening to Rick, and we're running in America. If I may just take a moment to explain the culture. The terms and conditions are a legal document, validity of any travel to anywhere. These have been they are national, federal terms and conditions for the U.S. That the challenge that we have in the U.S. is the consumer, the traveler, does not read any of the documents. They've been a spoiled market where the travel agent, we are, by the way, a B2B only, and we are 47% of my company's mice. Either the AON or McDonald's or IBM executives, human resources, they just don't read the attached documents. So now we find ourselves whereby the situation appeared, and we had to rush and find a way to settle this upset. So we were the first tour operator in North America in the luxury leisure to offer vouchers valid through to December 2021 for the same exact itinerary, any additional change. Now, going back to Rick, which is a great point that you mentioned, you're asking for transparency. The consumer does not understand that we send the funds overseas to pay our suppliers. They don't understand that it is complicated for them. It is, how do they think that once they get to the destination, they get the products? It's paid for. I don't know. They don't care. We've had a spoiled society. We've had an amazing 4 years of great economy. So what we've done now is we've said, look, For those of you that accept the vouchers, accept the vouchers. For those of you who are not accepting the voucher, what are we going to do? We can't collect funds. Now, I'm going to bring one example for Italy. Italy, 62% of the hotels in Italy will never reopen again. We have funds the day this started, this COVID started. Sorry, my accent comes on. My Italian accent kicks off when I get excited, which is every day. It says that we have no money. We let go everyone. No one is working. Offices are closed. So long, adios. So the client does not understand.
Yeah.
So now we are into legal with two of them only. We are into legal where the attorneys are getting in. They want the money. There is no money. We are not holding money for the client. We are only working on the 10% commission, if you will, because 15 we give it to the travel agent. Yes. Yes, Rick.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's common everywhere, but you know, going forward, we are just going to have to, in our processes, we are just either going to have to communicate verbally and put it in writing, just to make sure that the customer is aware. And yeah, you're right, they've been spoiled, and we though can't let ourselves get stuck in the middle again. Going forward, it's better just not to have the business. So you know, it's sort of a little bit like the credit card chargeback scenario. We are at risk of being charged back by the credit card companies, especially American Express, who aren't really interested in getting any facts. They just go and take the money. At least Visa and MasterCard ask you to provide proof of contract. But we will be introducing a new legal document to clients who want to pay by credit card that they will have to sign either electronically or physically with a pen, that they will rescind their right for a chargeback, because once again, I'm not going to put my company in a position where I've paid my supplier and a credit card company does a chargeback. So, you know, the answer is we've been too relaxed with those sorts of things. So I'm saying that suppliers come up with the most flexible, most customer orientated and consumer friendly terms and conditions that you can. And we as the distributor will be a lot more accurate and articulate in passing those terms and conditions on to the customer, so that we don't get caught stuck in the middle like we've been caught.
Well, in our case, we had two, going back to your great point, two, of course, it's chargebacks. It wasn't the refund. They came back and said $22,000 in total. And here we are fighting. And American Express is one credit card we do not take, because they protect the consumer, not the merchant.
Yeah,
well,
that's right.
Visa, MasterCard Discover, they put the money in escrow until the case is solved. So we now implemented the terms and conditions with the bottom signature the client has to sign. Documents will leave the office without that signature, that they've actually read the terms and condition, which states once purchase is being made, once money is being received, there are no refunds under any condition, unless it's what it is in the state. In our terms and condition, we have a word called force majeure. Suddenly the insurance companies have said, well, COVID is not a force majeure. Yes, it is. Oh no, force majeure is a hurricane. No, because it states it's a hurricane. So we're dealing now, we're fighting with insurance companies, we're fighting with the consumer. Well, we're not fighting with the consumer. We're trying to make the consumer understand that we are all in this together, but they ultimately are saying, we pay, we don't want to go, but I say, look, take the voucher. So it's a whole new process for 2021. It's going to be no more trust from them to us or us to them, or for whatever the saying is. The travel agent makes a huge mistake by not sitting down with the consumer and detailing those terms and conditions.
Yeah.
I'm not, they are my bread and butter, but they failed in all these years in seriously looking at the terms and conditions, which sure, it comes part of your document, but really is an important document. It's just as important as your voucher, if not more important, you see. So our challenge is to go back to Australia or to Fiji and say, oh, look, we need the money back. It's gone. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Besides, we are a non-refund company to start with. We've done very well with it for all these years. So I think the future, as you mentioned, it has opened up a whole new, I don't know, I don't want to say can of worms, but it has opened up a whole new way of us doing business. But Rick, the panel, I really want to ask, what do you think of this being, how more transparent can we be with the passenger?
I think anything that puts us at risk, and those risks, I think you look back over the last 8 months and you say, what really put us at risk? It was getting the money back from overseas. It was credit card chargebacks. Probably that's the two biggest issues, and so we will do everything we can to sell the products that put the least barriers in our way to getting ourselves out of those tight situations. And if we do need to go into a tight situation, we will then push the liability to between the customer and the supplier rather than us stuck in the middle.
Right, but what do you do? Do you show, we can't show our contracts to the consumer, of course.
Oh, no, I think it's a case of, we will get them a form that they will have to sign, either that will stand up in the court of law, because at the end of the day, you try and 99% of the time we resolve things by talking to our customers. It's when you can't resolve it by talking and it ends up in the courts, you need a legal document that you can present in court to protect your position. So, those are the documents that we are getting drawn up that our customers will have to sign, and especially have to sign if they're paying by credit card.
But years ago, we used to have 20 years ago, we stopped the refund issue because we have to go back to the travel agent, get their commission. Then we have to go back to to the overseas offices, get their money. It takes the time. The exchange rates change. Australia dollar versus US. So it was a nightmare. So we said, okay, once it's paid, that's done. The travel agent in the US, of course, likes that because they don't have to refund their commissions. They live on commission. Let's not get ourselves.
Maybe, and I have thought about this, maybe we're getting to the stage where we change our income model from commission to a service-based fee model.
I agree.
And, am I bold enough to do that in New Zealand? No, not sure yet, but, it is an option I'm considering because, in this case, here's the money for your holiday, and by the way, it's going to cost you, X amount of dollars for me to manage that booking for you. And if it goes all wrong, well, I'm just going to keep that service fee, but here's your money for your holiday back. So it's a bit like, if you go to your lawyer and the house that you put an offer on doesn't go through, do you expect the lawyer to refund their service fees? Answer, no. So why should a travel agent? So listen, those are some questions that we need to look at. And
but when a travel agent makes a 10% on $20,000, it isn't the same as us charging them $200. You see, so they want that 10%. And in closing, because I know I've taken too much time already, on the pay now booklet, I don't go for that stuff. Nobody's going to go for that stuff in the US. Pay now and then no, that's. I'm not for it. Does anyone agree that this is not going to work, this pay now, book later, or am I the only one?
Dave Woodman from the Chorus Sun has just left, and he's thanking Eric for the opportunity to be involved, and looking forward to working with you again in the not too distant future. There's also news coming out of New Zealand on health experts traveling down to Cook Islands this weekend.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, that's the New Zealand. Well, Cook Islands and Niue and Tokelau are realm countries of New Zealand, and so there is a team heading up, I think, this Friday or Saturday to the Cook Islands. I think we're on once-a-week flights up there at the moment. And so they'll be up there going through the processes. One of the things I believe that they will need to address is that they will need to have COVID testing facilities locally. Because one of the things is that if there is a COVID outbreak, they will want to test locally and they will want to get results within a few hours so that any hotspots can be shut down. And I think, you know, what we've had in New Zealand, we've had 3 or 4 outbreaks, breaks in the borders, from the borders into the community, but they've actually now been able to lock those down pretty effectively because of their contact tracing facilities, their COVID QR scanning thing. And to date, you know, it's been pretty remarkable that they've been able to shut down any small outbreaks. And so the key to that is obviously testing and doing it quickly and locking down these hotspots really quickly and contact tracing. So I think for Pacific Islands, who you know will need to address the testing situation, and I think one of the things that they'll be doing when they go to the Cooks this weekend will be obviously assessing the medical facilities and airport processes and all that sort of stuff. But they'll also be looking at how we can implement local testing. Funnily enough, they still, when they come back from the Cooks, then they've still got to do 2 weeks quarantine. So listen, I think an announcement on the Cooks is probably, you know, a month away. And hopefully travel might start pre-Christmas. But as I say, my view is most of that's going to be VFR traffic, because as soon as that's announced, they'll jump online, they'll book direct on Air New Zealand's website, and it won't leave any seats left for the tourist market. Or if there are any seats, they'll be horrendously expensive because the airlines are going to take every opportunity there is to maximise their yield. And then the word on the street is Fiji's next, and I guess that Cooks will be a bit of a testing ground. Yeah, looking forward to it. Need some good news.
Yes, we're all hoping for.
Yeah. Hi, Taylor. It's just a comment from Rick, John from TTF in Fiji.
Oh, hi, John.
Hi, mate. The one thing that we're seeing quite right now, and everything you've said is spot on, all the comments and feedback is exact, is, you know, there are a lot of assumptions around without answers, and it's going to be a week by week, month by month process to reopen with safety and confidence for our supplier as well as our customer. The big one that we're seeing, which is a trend fitting very well, is our groups market is very keen to come back and is very eager to get back in quickly. And all they're doing is sliding their dates according to quarantine regulations and moving it back. But they haven't cancelled the groups. The numbers are still there. They're just sliding their dates further down. And what we're finding is a lot of people are not looking at the groups. They're focusing on leisure and VFR. You know, okay, the group that might have come in last year of 200 is now 110. Mm-hmm. They've dropped by about 50%. That could be confidence in the rest of the clients. It could be financial. It could be a number of reasons that they don't want to do it. But the groups market is definitely showing the positive trend, but not before October 21.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that, John. I think there's a bit of, I mean, it's not really our area, the mice market, but, you know, I have heard some feedback that, you know, companies are going to be very aware of their responsibility, and the last thing they need is a PR disaster, you know, if it all goes wrong. So yes, they're going to be a little bit more cautious. yes, so New Zealand's sort of running 3 different economies as such. There's an economy that is doing really well, is doing better than ever, and they're just flying. They can't get enough staff and have soaked up a lot of the unemployment that came along. Then you've got this economy in the middle where they're doing okay. They've probably dropped their cost 20%, and they're doing okay. And then there's the third economy, which we're in, which is we're pretty stuffed and have had it hard. So, you know, I think if you looked at it in 3 different economies, those markets that are really doing well, IT, infrastructure, those sorts of places, they've got cash to burn. The middle one, I think, will be conservative, and the bottom one is off the menu. But reinforcing what you're saying, in a market that surprisingly we're still getting new inquiry for weddings in the Pacific. So, you know, there you go. I mean, they're not. You're right. Instead of 100 people, they're 20 people or 30 people, a bit more manageable. But you know, there's a market that you would have thought, oh, you know, that's off, as I said, off the menu. But surprisingly, we're getting inquiries, and you're right, it's for travel. Yeah, October 21 onwards. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, Rick. This is. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Hi, this is Ruud from Yap. I was just to come back on the, you know, how to give the customers or guests the insurance that their money is safe. Wouldn't and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, an escrow account be in solution where their money is being deposited in a third account and they have to guarantee it that it.
Yeah, and I actually see that as a pretty good option. Actually, I mean, we sort of have it because we operate ourselves with a client fund trust account, which we put the client's money into that trust account, and we use that to pay suppliers, and we pull our commission out, and when we on-forward that commission to the travel agent. So we're sort of operating it, but we manage it. But whereas, as you say, an escrow is a pretty good way of providing surety and confidence, and you know, to all stakeholders, really. Yeah, I think that could, if you could facilitate something like that. But once again, you've got to remember it needs to be in the country where the customer is. So, you know, if it's a global solution, it needs to have local solutions where the funds are held, because, you know, if the crap hits the fan, the court case is going to be in New Zealand in our case. So the money needs to be in New Zealand. But yeah, I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah. I mean, it could be maybe done on a national level in New Zealand. All the tour operators teaming up. I don't know. There's like a guaranteed fund or whatever, and facilitate that.
Funnily, we used to have one called OTOC, but it wasn't quite, you know, funds protected, but it was a similar sort of.
Yeah, but with this escrow construction, it might be an option to revitalize that, so to say. I've got one more question. Is the New Zealand or Kiwi market, as you call it, is that, are there any opportunities for the charter markets for long haul flights?
Yeah. Personally, I'd say no. We just don't have enough people. You know, charters tend to work well in high population areas, and, you know, trying to get a charter operating, you know, all on, it's got to be on the same date, same plane, at the same time. Kiwis just love to, you know, do it when it suits them. So we have done a few of them over, not me personally, but they have been done, but they, by and large, you just don't get the buy-in, because, Kiwi customers tend to want to do things when it suits them, not as part of a set package. Yeah. And to be honest, in some respects, like Mario was saying, our Kiwi customers have been spoiled because we've had so much supply and our demand, has been 4 million Kiwis, that we're all chasing after the same Kiwis. So the Kiwi traveller gets the Rolls-Royce bespoke FIT package for the charter price because we've been forced to get to that stage. I guess it's a case of, the power of the relationship. In New Zealand, the customer has the power as opposed to, the supplier, just because there aren't enough of us. I hope that's answered your question, Roo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
I think that's all that we have time for today. Thank you very much, Rick, for the insights into the Kiwi customer and the great presentation and delivery. Thank you all for attending our webinar, and I hope you enjoyed it and hope you've taken on some insights that Rick has shared with us this morning on the customers, especially on refunds and customers, clients wanting assurance on money, since insurance doesn't cover COVID-related events. And if you have any feedback, please do send it through. I encourage feedback, and please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much, Rick. Would you
Yep, no problem.
Want to have any last words?
No, I just say, it's going to happen, and we've got to be confident about that, and we've just got to be adaptable. And I guess, at the end of the day, the customer holds the gold, so they're going to make the rules. We just need to make sure we're there along the way and still relevant. And we've obviously got a few more months to go yet, but hopefully most of us will get there. Manaka, thank you very much for your time. See you guys.
Thank you everyone for attending. See you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.